Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The sprawling plains of Zara 7 stretched endlessly before Lisa as she gazed out from the observation deck of her ranch. The air was still, and the twin suns hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the arid landscape. Energathons grazed peacefully in the distance, their translucent, crystalline bodies shimmering in the fading light. These creatures were the lifeblood of the ranch, and if all went according to plan, they'd soon become the energy source that would power not just humanity but the entire galaxy. Lisa wiped the sweat from her brow and exhaled slowly. She had inherited this ranch from her father, a man who had seen potential where others saw only barren wasteland. His vision was grand: tame the wild frontier and cultivate energathons, these strange alien beings capable of generating near-infinite energy. He had spent his life perfecting the conditions for their survival, a delicate balance of minerals, atmospheric gases, and the unique energy fields that flowed through Zara 7's rocky crust. His research had been ahead of its time, and now it was up to Lisa to carry that legacy forward. She glanced at the data pad in her hand. The energathons were thriving, and the energy readings were off the charts. If she could perfect her father's unfinished energy conversion system, the ranch would become the center of a galactic revolution. Clean, limitless energy, just imagine the possibilities. Planets, stations, ships, all powered by the sheer existence of these alien creatures. It was too good to keep secret for long, though, and already, whispers had spread across the stars. The Dravens, ruthless conquerors from a nearby system, had taken a particular interest in the ranch. Lisa's stomach tightened as she recalled the recent skirmish. Their stealth ships had descended on Zara 7 like phantoms, trying to snatch several energathons right from under her nose. Her team had managed to fend them off, but barely. The attacks were only getting bolder. "Lisa, we've got a problem," Marco's voice crackled through the comms, pulling her from her thoughts. "What is it?" she replied, her tone sharp with concern. Marco had been her father's friend and a seasoned space marine before retiring to Zara 7. Now he was her head of security, and if Marco was worried, she knew it was serious. "I've detected a Draven scout ship hovering just outside our sensor range. They're getting too close for comfort. We should assume they're planning another attack." Lisa clenched her jaw. She had hoped the recent engagement would have scared them off, but it seemed the Dravens were more determined than ever. "How much time do we have?" "Hard to say. Maybe hours, maybe days. But they're watching us, and that means we need to be ready." Lisa's mind raced. They weren't prepared for a full-scale invasion, not with their current defenses. The Dravens were ruthless and would stop at nothing to seize control of the energathons. The energy generated by these creatures was the kind of power that empires were built on, and destroyed for. "Meet me in the control room," she ordered. Cutting the comms. As she made her way down the narrow corridors of the ranch's main building, her thoughts drifted to her father again. He had always believed that the greatest threats wouldn't come from nature, but from those who coveted the power the ranch possessed. His warnings had been prophetic, and now it was up to her to face the storm that was brewing. When she entered the control room, Marco was already there, standing over a holographic display of the ranch's perimeter. His weathered face was set in a deep frown as he analyzed the data. Around him, the rest of her team was gathered: Nia, her chief engineer; Warren, a former mercenary turned ranch hand; and Lila, a communications specialist who had once worked for a galactic corporation. They were a ragtag group, but they were the best she had. "We can't hold off another assault with what we have," Marco said bluntly, looking up from the display. "The Dravens will be bringing their full fleet next time." Then we need to make sure they never get the chance to land, Lisa replied, pacing the room. How much time do we have before the scout ship calls in reinforcements? Marco shook his head. No way to know for sure. But they won't wait long. Once they confirm we're vulnerable, they'll strike fast. Lisa's fingers drummed against the console as she thought through their options. Defense drones had been effective in the past, but not against a full-scale attack. The Draven's ships were equipped with cloaking technology and advanced shields, outmatching anything Zara 7 could muster in a direct confrontation. Lisa, we still haven't finished the repairs on the West Barrier after the last attack, Nia said, her voice tinged with worry. If they hit us there again, we won't stand a chance. Lisa's eyes narrowed. She needed more time. Time to fix the defenses, time to complete her father's work on the energy conversion system. But the galaxy didn't grant favors, and she knew the Dravens would be coming sooner rather than later. We'll reinforce the West Barrier first, Lisa said, making her decision. Marco, take Oren and a squad out there and double the patrols. Nia, I want every drone we have running combat simulations. Lila, monitor all communications, anything that could give us a heads-up on the Draven's movements. The team nodded, but Lisa could see the worry in their eyes. This wasn't just another raid, they all knew what was at stake. The Energathons weren't just the future of the ranch, they were the future of galactic energy. If the Dravens took control, they would hold the galaxy in a chokehold. After the meeting, Lisa returned to her private quarters. The room was sparse, furnished only with the essentials, but it was the one place on the ranch where she could think clearly. She sat down at her desk and pulled up her father's old research logs. Her father had been so close to completing the energy conversion system. The prototype had worked in theory, but there were still glitches that had ultimately cost him his life when he tried to test it on a larger scale. Lisa had vowed to finish his work, but the attacks had kept her from making any real progress. She scrolled through the data, her eyes scanning the complex equations and technical schematics. If she could just stabilize the conversion process, the Energathon's energy output could be amplified 100-fold. It would be enough to power the ranch's defenses, and more. A soft knock at the door pulled her out of her thoughts. It was Marco. How's it looking out there? She asked without turning around. Quiet for now, he replied, stepping into the room. But it won't last. Lisa sighed, running a hand through her hair. I'm running out of time, Marco. I need to finish this system. It's the only way we're going to survive. Marco crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. You're doing everything you can, Lisa. We'll hold them off. She appreciated his confidence, but deep down, she knew the odds weren't in their favor. The Dravens were relentless, and once they set their sights on something, they wouldn't stop until they had it. Just keep the ranch safe for a little longer, Lisa said. That's all I need. Marco nodded, his face serious. You can count on me. As the door closed behind him, Lisa turned back to her father's research. The equations stared back at her, mocking her with their complexity. But she wouldn't give up. She had to believe that the answers were there, buried somewhere in the numbers. For the next several hours, Lisa worked tirelessly, her fingers flying across the console as she adjusted the energy parameters and ran simulations. One after another, the simulations failed, each one leaving her more frustrated than the last, but she kept going, driven by the memory of her father's voice. He had always told her that the future belonged to those who dared to dream, and to those who were willing to fight for those dreams. Finally, just as the first rays of Zara 7's morning sun began to filter through the window, she saw it, the breakthrough she had been waiting for. The system worked. The energy conversion was stable, and the output was even higher than she had anticipated. Lisa's heart raced as the breakthrough illuminated her screen. The energy system was complete. All the late nights and relentless work had paid off. The Energathon's energy could now be harvested safely and at a rate that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. This was more than just a defense mechanism, it was the future of energy. Without wasting another moment, Lisa rushed out of her quarters, data pad in hand, and headed straight for the main control room. She could hear the hum of the ranch's defenses kicking into high gear as Marco's team worked around the clock to reinforce the perimeter. Everyone knew the Dravens would be back any moment now, and this time, they would bring everything they had. Marco. Lisa called as she entered the control room, her voice filled with an urgency that caught everyone's attention. He looked up from the holomap, his face grim but alert. "What is it?" he asked, stepping toward her. "I did it," Lisa said, holding up the data pad like it was the key to the universe itself. "The energy system is ready." For a moment, there was silence as the team took in what she'd just said. Nia, who had been monitoring the status of the defensive drones, turned to face her, eyes wide. "You mean, it works?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It works," Lisa confirmed. "We can harness the Energathon's energy now, safely and efficiently. And it's powerful enough to power every single defense system on the ranch." Marco's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile. "That's the best news I've heard all day." "Let's get it online," Lisa said, moving to the central console. She plugged in her data pad, and the control room came alive with a soft hum as the energy system began to synchronize with the ranch's infrastructure. Lights flickered on every display as the Energathon's energy flowed through the grid, and Lisa could feel the power coursing through the ranch like a living pulse. It was incredible. The output was even higher than she'd predicted, and within seconds, Zara 7 was encased in an invisible barrier, strong enough to repel even the most advanced Draven weaponry. "Energy shield is active," Nia said, her voice filled with awe. "I'm reading full capacity across all systems." "We've got a real shot now," Marco added, his tone determined. Lisa nodded, feeling the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. The Dravens wouldn't know what hit them. For the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that they might actually make it through this, but they weren't out of the woods yet. "Keep monitoring the perimeter," Lisa instructed. "They'll strike soon, and we need to be ready for anything." The team moved into action, each member focused on their tasks. Lisa stayed at the console, watching as the energy readings stabilized and the shield held firm. The Dravens wouldn't wait much longer. They'd been watching, and now, they'd sensed the power surge from the ranch. It wouldn't be long before they made their move. "Lisa," Marco called from the comm station. "We've got incoming." A Draven fleet just dropped out of warp. Lisa's heart skipped a beat as she pulled up the holodisplay. Sure enough, a massive Draven warship was leading a fleet straight toward Zara 7, its sleek black hull gleaming ominously against the backdrop of space. This was no scouting mission. They were here to take the ranch, by force, if necessary. "All hands, prepare for combat," Lisa ordered. Her voice was calm, but inside, she was on edge. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The Dravens wasted no time. The first wave of fighters broke off from the main fleet, swooping down toward the ranch like dark, predatory birds. The ranch's automated defense systems sprang to life, firing energy blasts at the incoming ships, but the Dravens were fast, agile, and well-armed. For several tense moments, the battle raged. Explosions lit up the sky as the Draven fighters clashed with Lisa's drones, each side testing the other's defenses. But even as the Dravens pushed harder, Lisa knew that the energy shield was holding. The ranch was safe, for now. Status on the shield, she asked, glancing at Nia, still at full strength. Nia replied, her fingers flying over the controls. They haven't been able to breach it yet. Good. That was something, but the Dravens weren't giving up. As the first wave of fighters pulled back, the warship itself began to descend toward the surface, its massive cannons charging with energy. They're going for a full bombardment, Marco said, his voice grim. They'll throw everything they've got at us. Let them try, Lisa replied, her eyes fixed on the warship's approach. We're ready. As the Draven warship fired its first salvo, the ground beneath the ranch shook, but the energy shield held strong. The ranch's defenses flared in response, launching counterattacks that rocked the Draven ship, but it was a behemoth of metal and power, designed to withstand more than just a few potshots. For several minutes, the battle continued, each side locked in a deadly dance. The Dravens would fire, and the ranch's shields would absorb the blasts. The ranch would retaliate, and the Dravens would adjust their course. But there was no denying that the tide was turning in Lisa's favor. The energy system was working better than she'd hoped. Not only was it protecting the ranch, but it was generating enough power to keep the defense drones operating at maximum capacity. The Dravens were losing, and they knew it. We've got them on the ropes, Marco said, his eyes locked on the holodisplay. But they won't retreat. Not yet. Lisa nodded. The Dravens were too proud to back down without a fight. They'd push until they had no other choice. Let's finish this, she said, her voice firm. She keyed in a command on the console, and the ranch's defense systems activated their final protocol, a concentrated energy burst, powered directly by the energothons, aimed straight at the heart of the Draven warship. The air crackled with raw energy as the system charged, and for a moment, the ranch seemed to hum with anticipation. Then, in a blinding flash, the energy burst shot across the sky, striking the warship's central power core. The explosion was deafening, a brilliant ball of fire and smoke that lit up the horizon. The Draven warship, its hull breached and systems failing, began to break apart, debris raining down from the sky. The remaining fighters scattered, retreating into space as their flagship was destroyed. It was over. The Dravens had been defeated. In the control room, the team erupted into cheers, but Lisa stood still, her eyes fixed on the display. Relief washed over her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Dravens had been beaten, but they weren't the only ones interested in the energothons. Other alien factions would come, and next time, they might be even more dangerous, but for now, Zara 7 was safe. Her ranch was safe. Lisa turned to her team, a small smile tugging at her lips. Good work, everyone. We did it. Marco clapped her on the shoulder, his usual stoic expression giving way to a rare grin. I told you we'd hold them off. Lisa laughed, the tension finally breaking. Yeah, you did. As the team began to celebrate their victory, Lisa took a moment to herself, stepping out onto the observation deck. The twin suns were setting again, casting long shadows over the plains, and the energothons grazed peacefully in the distance, completely unaware of the battle that had just been fought to protect them. Her father's dream had been to create something that would change the galaxy, and today, Lisa had done just that. The energy system she had developed would revolutionize how the galaxy powered itself, and the ranch would become the epicenter of that change, but there was still work to be done. The galaxy was vast, and its power struggles were far from over. But as Lisa stood there, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the darkening sky, she knew one thing for sure: she was ready for whatever came next. This was just the beginning.